Why people keep disappearing. In the Amazon. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to vanish without a trace? Not in the middle of the ocean, not in a remote desert, but inside a place so enormous that a rescue helicopter could fly directly over your head and never know you were there. Every year, people disappear in the Amazon rainforest. Some are tourists, some are explorers, some have spent years working in the jungle, and the unsettling part isn't that people get lost, it's how easy it is. Because once you understand what the Amazon is actually like, you'll stop asking how people disappear and start asking how anyone is ever found. Let's get right to the point. People disappear in the Amazon because this forest is one of the few places on Earth that is still genuinely bigger than us, bigger than our maps, bigger than our technology, and sometimes bigger than our ability to understand. Moving on to number 10. Number 10, the forest that eats the map. Most people think they understand how big the Amazon is. Then they see the numbers, and somehow the numbers still don't help. The Amazon covers millions of square kilometers across South America. You can read that fact in a few seconds. Actually feeling what it means is another story. Imagine dropping a single grain of rice onto a football field and asking someone to find it. Now imagine the football field stretches across multiple countries. That's closer to the challenge rescuers face. In a city, investigators have advantages. Roads, security cameras, phone records, witnesses, buildings, patterns. A missing person leaves clues. The Amazon often doesn't. A search helicopter can spend hours flying. Ground teams can cover miles of terrain. Yet compared to the size of the rainforest, those efforts can feel surprisingly small. The forest doesn't just hide people, it swallows scale itself. Distances that seem manageable on a map become exhausting realities on the ground. And here's the frightening part. Being lost inside the Amazon is only the beginning, because once you're out there, the jungle starts working against the most important tool you have, your sense of direction. Number 9, the straight line that betrays you. In 1981, a young traveler named Yossi Ginsberg became separated from his companions in the Bolivian Amazon. At first, he wasn't panicking. Most people wouldn't. The solution seems obvious. Pick a direction, keep moving. Eventually you'll find something. A river, a trail, a village, anything. The problem is that the jungle quietly destroys that plan. There are no distant mountains to guide you, no skyline, no landmarks, no easy reference points, just trees, endless trees. You step around a fallen log, then around thick vegetation, then around a patch of mud. Every detour feels insignificant. A few feet here, a few feet there. But over hours, those tiny adjustments begin pulling you off course. Humans are surprisingly bad at walking in straight lines when they can't see where they're going. What feels like confident progress can slowly become a giant circle. Imagine walking all day, your legs ache, you're convinced you're making progress, then you look down and see footprints. Relief floods through your body. Someone has been here. Then you realize those footprints are yours. The Amazon doesn't always trap people. Sometimes it simply lets them trap themselves. And once you lose your direction, the next problem becomes even worse. Because rescue might be closer than you think, and still completely impossible. Number 8, the helicopter that can't save you. Imagine you've been lost for days. You're hungry, exhausted, covered in insect bites. Every step feels heavier than the last. Then suddenly you hear it, a helicopter. At first it's faint, then louder and louder. Your heart starts racing. You wave your arms, you scream for help, you jump up and down. For the first time in days, hope feels real. You're certain you've been found. Then the helicopter keeps going. The sound fades and eventually disappears. That sounds impossible until you understand what the Amazon looks like from above. From the ground, you're standing beneath trees. From the air, you're standing beneath a roof. Large sections of the rainforest are covered by an incredibly dense canopy that can hide almost everything underneath. Pilots aren't looking at people. They're looking at an endless ocean of green, millions upon millions of leaves, layer upon layer of vegetation, a giant natural ceiling stretching to the horizon. Somewhere beneath it could be a single person desperately trying to be seen. That's what makes it so terrifying. Rescue can be incredibly close without becoming rescue. The helicopter may pass directly overhead. The lost person may hear it clearly, yet neither ever sees the other. The distance between survival and failure might only be a few hundred feet. But in the Amazon, a few hundred feet can feel like another planet. Number 7, the river that lies. Most survival advice sounds wonderfully simple. Find water, follow the river, Civilization is downstream. Problem solved. Except this is the Amazon, and the Amazon rarely does simple. The rainforest contains one of the largest river systems on Earth. Not one river, thousands. Major waterways branch into smaller waterways. Those split again, then split again. Looking at some parts of the Amazon from above can feel like staring at the veins of a giant living organism. And then flood season arrives. Entire sections of the landscape can change. Areas that were dry become flooded. Routes that seemed obvious disappear. New channels appear. Old ones become difficult to follow. A river that feels like a guide can slowly become a maze. Someone trying to follow water to safety may end up moving farther from where rescuers expect them to be. That's what makes the rainforest deceptive. Many of the things that look helpful aren't necessarily helping. They're just changing the way you're lost, and nowhere is that more true than the dangers most people imagine, because the things people fear most aren't usually what gets them. Number 6. The monsters aren't the main problem. Ask someone what scares them about the Amazon. You'll probably hear the same answers. Jaguars, anacondas, piranhas, poison dart frogs, maybe a giant spider the size of a dinner plate. The rainforest certainly contains dangerous animals. But here's what surprises most people. The animals usually aren't the main story. A healthy, alert human isn't the preferred target of most wildlife. Movies have trained us to expect dramatic attacks. Reality is often much less cinematic and much more dangerous. The bigger threat is exhaustion, dehydration, injury, lack of sleep, hunger. Those problems don't arrive all at once. They arrive slowly, quietly, almost politely. Then they start stacking on top of each other. A small mistake becomes a bigger mistake. A bad decision becomes two bad decisions. Your ability to think clearly begins to fade. The jungle doesn't always defeat people with one catastrophic event. More often, it wins through accumulation. 100 tiny problems working together, and nobody illustrates that better than the next story. Tractor. Number 5. The forest that slowly wins. In 1971, 17-year-old Juliane Kupka survived something that sounds impossible. The airplane she was riding in broke apart during a storm over the Amazon. She fell thousands of feet while still strapped to her seat, and somehow survived. For most people, that would be the entire story. For Juliane, it was only the beginning. She woke up alone, injured, disoriented, and surrounded by rainforest. No rescue team standing nearby, no road, no easy escape. Just jungle in every direction. For days she searched for help. Not fighting jaguars, not wrestling giant snakes, simply enduring the reality of being alone in one of the harshest environments on Earth. That's what makes her story so powerful. Movies teach us to fear one giant threat. The Amazon usually works differently. Day 1 isn't always the problem. Day 4 might be. Day 6 might be. The heat wears you down. The humidity wears you down. The insects wear you down. The lack of comfort wears you down. Everything becomes slightly harder. Then harder again, then harder again, until even simple decisions start feeling complicated. Juliane survived. Many others haven't been as fortunate, and modern technology doesn't eliminate those risks nearly as much as people think. Number 4. The phone that promised too much. Modern humans carry something extraordinary in their pockets, a device that can guide us through unfamiliar cities, call for help instantly, translate languages, pinpoint locations, answer questions. And somehow we've started believing that means getting lost is basically a solved problem. Then the battery hits 10%, then 5, then 1, then suddenly your miracle device becomes an expensive paperweight. Even when GPS works perfectly, it has limits. It can show your location, it cannot create a road, it cannot remove a river, it cannot clear dense vegetation, and it certainly cannot make the rainforest smaller. Technology is incredibly useful. The dangerous mistake is assuming technology and safety are the same thing. The Amazon has been humbling people for thousands of years. Smartphones didn't change that. And sometimes another mistake makes things even worse. Believing survival advice is simpler than it really is. Number 3. The survival tip trap. The internet loves survival tips. Stay calm, find water, climb higher, signal rescuers, follow sunlight, build shelter. Some of that advice can absolutely save lives. The problem is when people start treating survival tips like cheat codes, as if every situation has one correct answer. The Amazon doesn't work that way. A decision that saves someone in one location could create a disaster somewhere else. Following water might help, or it might take you deeper into unfamiliar terrain. Climbing higher might improve visibility, or waste precious energy. Everything depends on circumstances, terrain, weather, resources, injuries, distance, time, and dozens of factors that change from person to person. Humans love simple answers. The rainforest refuses to provide them, which brings us to one of the strongest reminders of how remote this place truly is. Number 2. The people who prove how remote it really is. One of the most remarkable facts about the Amazon has nothing to do with survival, it has to do with scale. Even today, there are indigenous communities living with little or very limited outside contact. Think about what that means. We live in an age of satellites, GPS, aircraft, global communication, the internet, instant information, and yet parts of the Amazon remain extraordinarily difficult to reach. Not because they're invisible, not because they're mythical, but because the rainforest is genuinely that vast, that isolated, that difficult to move through. For most of human history, places like this were normal. Today they're rare. The Amazon is one of the last reminders that truly remote places still exist, and if entire communities can remain difficult for outsiders to reach, finding one lost person suddenly sounds a lot more challenging. Which brings us to the final reason, and it's one many people never think about. Number 1. The danger nobody expects. When people imagine the Amazon, they picture nature. Towering trees, wild animals, flooded rivers, relentless rain. What they don't always picture is people. Remote regions can attract illegal logging operations, illegal mining, smuggling routes, and other activities that benefit from staying far away from authorities and attention. That doesn't mean every remote area is dangerous, and it doesn't turn the rainforest into an action movie, but it adds another layer of uncertainty, because the same remoteness that can hide a lost person can also hide people who would rather not be found. One of the most famous mysteries connected to the Amazon involves British explorer Percy Fawcett. In 1925, he entered the wilderness searching for what he believed was an ancient lost city. He never returned. Search teams followed, investigators searched, theories multiplied, rumors spread around the world. Years became decades, yet certainty never arrived. Nobody could say exactly what happened. A man walked into one of the largest rainforests on Earth, and the rainforest kept the answer. That's what makes the Amazon so unsettling. Not because it's cursed, not because it's haunted, not because it's filled with monsters lurking behind every tree. It doesn't need any of those things. The forest is already large enough to erase your sense of direction, dense enough to hide you from rescuers, harsh enough to turn small mistakes into life-threatening problems, and old enough to continue functioning perfectly whether you're there or not. So when people disappear in the Amazon, the scary part isn't that it happens. The scary part is that once you understand the forest, you start wondering how anyone is ever found at all. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one.